Gentlemen, and I use that term loosely, we're here to celebrate what? 7 years of continuous weekly episode releases. 380 episodes.
That is bananas.
We haven't skipped a single week.
We've done a few blasts from the past, a few archival reissues.
No, but I thought there was at least 1 week where
we gave ourselves a vacation here and there.
Yeah,
but come on, let's not split hairs.
I think we averaged maybe 1 week a year where something would just go crazy, and then we typically take the last week of the year off anyway. So even still, that's a shit ton of episodes. Remember when we had that stupid idea about doing the 12 days of Agile?
Mm-hmm.
And we did an episode.
Great.
It was great, but we were all like brain dead and suicidal towards the end. It was an episode every other day for a month. It was insane.
Yeah. Then I came up with the genius idea of re-releasing it with more audio in front of it. Like what?
Yeah, that whole simplicity, maximize the work not done. We missed that principle. I looked up because I like data. I looked up, we have 900,000 unique listens.
Wow. That's not bad. That's not bad at all.
That's pretty amazing.
There's some people that need to get a life. That's what I'm saying.
That's almost the number of people that would love to see GIF dead.
Oh wow!
That's a turn.
Wow, that's
Joe Rogan better
dark.
watch out. Joe Rogan better watch out. We're in his rear view.
I've made fun of you for a few minutes, Jay. I thought I'd turned around. Like I haven't been on a pod with GIF in how long has it been? Oh my God. James Gifford's with us, ladies and gentlemen.
In the house.
I did disappear for about a year.
Are you coming back? Is this
back.
the beginning of something new?
Yeah, I mean, if you haven't noticed, I've kind of gotten inspired and I started like posting things regularly again and like writing things that like aren't about like Scrum and stupid stuff like that. So
let's do some episodes. I'm looking for some
new
people to do some episodes with different.
You still have the tool belt GIF?
I wear it. I literally had it on in the office like 2 weeks ago.
Shut up! You do not.
Yeah.
Yes.
With the projector on it and everything?
Yes, like full gear.
Wait a minute. When did the projector module get added in?
It's been on.
It's always been there.
We should probably explain to the listeners because I doubt everyone knows what we're talking about.
But wait. A question. Yes. Before you explain what it is, do you have to change the name now since you're such a anti-scrummer?
I'm not an anti-scrummer. I value Scrum. I'm no longer I haven't changed my Twitter handle, so it's still Scrumando. My LinkedIn profile links out to Scrumando. So if you need to find me on the internet, just type in Scrumando.
Man, I set that up perfectly for you. Now you can just roll right into the explanation. You're welcome.
The plug, man, it's a little early for plugs, isn't it?
So we got so what they're all referring to in around 2015. We thought it'd be a great idea to make this gimmicky post-it note tool belt. Well, I thought it would be a great idea, James, and it would be a great way to go to the Scrum gathering in Phoenix and drum up some business because like we all sucked at business development. It's probably why Lef and I were never in consulting very long. But so I put together this tool belt. It was literally a fat, thick leather contractor belt that I had hogged out the guts out of a couple post-it note dispensers that you stick on your desk. Ironically, those are all filled with birdshot. So if you ever need to do some shotgun shell reloading, just drill open your desk weighted post-it note pad holders. I put a pouch on it that held a projector. It had a pouch for like dry erase markers, Sharpies. Like you could just go facilitate a meeting wearing a belt in front of a bunch of people. So I actually started wearing it at the office after the Scrum gathering. And I still wear it to this day. I show up to meetings and I stand in front of the room and I just rip post-it notes off my belt. People come up and like yank them off as like a joke and then write on them.
Professional cosplayer.
Yeah. So, I mean, as dumb as it is, when it comes to sticky notes, I'm just going to walk right past that. I'm not even going to just give you any airtime on that.
I would argue that there are way more embarrassing Agile LARPers out there than Gifford and his belt of Post-its. And a quick perusal of LinkedIn.
Now that's a fun thought exercise. Like,
Chris Stone ruined the retrospective.
Describe an Agile cosplayer or LARPer.
I'd rather just be nice, you know. It's okay. It's okay.
A little
It's all good.
balance.
Yeah.
How have you survived with us for so long, Troy, being nice?
I don't know. Good question. You know, I'm not always nice, but
I've
lately
seen
I'm
Troy
trying to be
mad.
more nice.
I've
That's all.
seen Troy mad like 4 times in his whole entire existence.
4
I've known him.
times? That's pretty
4.
good. That's
I
pretty
can't
good.
even
Okay.
imagine what Troy Mad looks like. Like,
It looks like
L-
Troy.
I
Just
just picture
Troy.
left, bright red, like
It-
cursing, just spitting and
he-
screaming, but
he's
it's
a
not
bit like
making
the,
sense. I can't. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a bit like that guy, Mr. Rogers, is it? The children's thing? Yeah.
That guy, Mr. Rogers.
Yeah, that one guy.
Hey, look, we didn't have him in Australia. I just saw the movie. So, you know.
Okay.
It's fair. I mean,
So-
there is at least one human, if not more, that look at him and say "Dad." So, I mean,
Sure.
that does have an effect.
If not
So-
more is an interesting way. There is no more that say that, but yes,
I
there's
couldn't
one
remember
human
if you
being,
had a
yes.
second or not, Troy.
No,
I'm
no,
sorry.
it's just one.
Oh,
child.
well, when we finish, I'll introduce you to the theory of telegony, and we all probably have kids we don't even really know about floating around out there. So anyway, 7 years, right? 7 years. The world. Is it too much hyperbole to say the world has completely changed in 7 years, let alone the last 7 months?
Yeah, it's going to shit pretty much, but yeah.
They started with shooting Harambe, and now it's all been downhill
Yeah,
after that,
pretty
right?
much,
I mean,
yeah.
we were like blank checks were being cut for like our services when we first started this podcast, and now we're jingling the cans on the corner for spare change so we can get Andy to retirement.
It's the world has definitely gotten weird. I mean, you want to say positive, like not positive stuff, but the podcast alone, if you go back and look at the reports for our numbers, we were up over 10,000 downloads a month, and then everybody got locked down. And so you consultants stopped traveling, which decreased demand. And then everybody started the podcast. So those two things, when people say, oh, well, it's harder to get listeners these days because there's so many podcasts. They ain't lying.
Would
It's
like
gotta
to
be
think that
different,
we
that's
have
all.
a dedicated
True.
small group that still appreciate us.
True.
But I also think when COVID hit, the state of Agile changed.
It just
Absolutely.
accelerated its downfall.
That's definitely a pathway it took. So I do think the entire experience none of us were ready to fully go in a virtual way, right? So it disrupted everything. I think people got burned out. Sorry, Jay. I think I'll speak from personal experience, right? In the past 7 years, I would say the past 2 years, 2.5, 3 years have been some of the hardest in my career. And I should be in the tail end of my freaking career at this point.
Well, you're only 32. Lef, I'm going to ask you a question. Don't overthink it. Answer it. Somebody put on the internet that no one made a good decision in 2021. Would you agree or disagree with that statement? No one made a good decision.
Repeat the question. It broke up.
No one made a good decision in 2021. The entire year, nobody made a good decision.
I can't agree with that.
On the whole planet?
Well, the argument was, think about it. We came out of a year of being locked down, which to your point, most of us were not ready for. Companies weren't ready. Personally, most of us weren't ready. And then when the world reopened, everybody kind of whipsawed back and maybe made some decisions that were not in their best interest. And if we weren't recording, I could share some of mine where, yeah.
I made some of the best decisions in 2021. So I will, that's why I can't say
That's
that
fair.
I agree
That's
with
fair.
that.
Hey, gentlemen, I have a question. Let's talk about something fun in the last 7 years. Something fun. How about that?
Thanks, Troy.
What's fun? What's fun to you?
Wow, crickets, right? Like,
No.
I'm more depressed now, Troy. Thanks for asking that question. Now
Because I got nothing. I'm coming up with nothing.
Well, some of you all live off of the misery of humans and the planet, and that's it's like you're vampires of misery.
It's called being a Philadelphia sports fan. Get used to it.
I won't get used to it, and it still stings that you all won last week, and I'm sorry.
I'm not.
So, I mean, we kind of did progress in our, we've all advanced our careers to a degree. Like, there is I would argue that all of us, like, I don't know if the podcast necessarily had anything to do with it, but we've gotten to cheer each other on as we've done some really cool things, even since 2020.
That's true. That's
Yeah,
true.
that's true.
But that wasn't. I think Troy's question is talk about something fun. Could be anything. He didn't
well,
really put the Agile wrapper on it, right?
Something positive. I was
I'll-
saying, hey, in 7 years, we've at least advanced in our careers to a degree.
Yeah, I mean
That's
that
true.
has been very positive. I will tell you that hanging out with Brad Stokes at 5:30 in the morning on Vasco Duarte's podcast, not ours, but that was fun. I had got to, I got to hang out with Brad really early in the morning. I missed some of that random stuff because I can remember being on doing Meller's podcast with Lockhart at like 2 o'clock in the morning because that's the only time we could nail him down in London. 2019 when was the Scrum, or when was the big Agile conference in San Diego?
That was
recent.
2019.
Sneaking into the after hours and doing like 3-4 show with all you guys because I was out there on a work trip. Like I will say that some of my most fun experiences have been running around with you all at like different events, conferences, just the shenanigans.
Oh my God. We got to chase around. We got to chase Alistair around while he was wearing a cape on a riverboat in Pittsburgh.
Uh-huh.
And we recorded a podcast where I don't think with Colleen, you and me and Colleen, and we were on, I don't know how many substances we were on, but there was fun had.
There were Yinglings, that's it.
No.
Fun. I'm trying to think of fun, man. That one in person we did in Westchester was a lot of fun.
That gathering when CSS Tech used to like hook us up with events. The one-off, we did the one-off at the country club.
Yeah,
we recorded we tried to record our first live podcast and none of them came out, and you can find one of the Agile bootlegs out there in a you go find the old no, what was that thing? What was the thing before the Discord? Was that Discourse?
Discourse, yeah.
If you go out, if Discourse is still running, there's a Agile bootlegs folder out there you can find with just some random stuff from the
Really?
Yes.
Well, that's fine.
There's
We've
bootlegs
done
out there.
we've done a podcast. We've done a series on all of the scaling frameworks, which was fairly comprehensive, and I don't know that anybody's done as deep of a dive as what we did. We did an entire series on various aspects of transformation. We did we mentioned before the 12 days of Agile, which is deep dives into every single principle. There's the signatory series where we got 14 of the 17. That's never been done.
Let's talk about kind of that angle. We've built community, right? We've created community for ourselves, for others. We've created pathways, connections. We have enriched people in a way that has given them a place, right? For many years, this career was kind of obscure, right? Didn't know where to fit. Land of the Misfit Toys. We kind of created a platform and a foundation for people. So I think there's, I don't know if it equates to fun, but we do have a fun aspect to us, right? Our personalities, who we attract, the community that we've helped create, support, build, and allow others to add on and take it, in a direction. I mean, our Discord is a very interesting place, and it's not toxic, which is rare on Discord.
Yeah, usually.
So
yeah.
I really appreciate all of the work that each one of you have done to help support that, because this turned into something that I don't think any of us expected, but we've continued to invest because it does feel good. So there is a feel good component to offset the monotony of some of our work at times, and just the social injustice of putting us in a cage, right? So
Yeah. One of the cool things I love is, obviously interacting with the people on Discord that aren't part of this board. But even I'll get randomly pinged at work. Somebody says, "Oh, I listened to your podcast episode about X." I'm like, I didn't even know people listen. The people were just approaching me about it. So, but that's pretty cool. So it seems like people are still listening.
Yeah,
I liked when Troy did the all the Xeno health stuff. And I
Yeah.
used to send Troy pictures of like fat dudes in rowboats.
Yeah. I should get back to that. I'm in the middle of my Agile Heresy podcast series. So after that, maybe I'll get back to Xena.
So I'm gonna yes and that, Troy, the Agile Heresy. So everybody knows in the stock market what a short seller is, and every time someone comes up with the idea to ban short sellers, the rationale is, well, they help keep the market honest because they call companies on their bullshit, and sometimes they see things that other people don't see. I would go as far to say that we were the OG Agile short sellers, right? So we were the ones that were not saying it was bullshit or not saying it was a Ponzi scheme. We were one of the first voices that questioned loudly and publicly and put our names to some of the BS that we saw, right? Some of the blind devotion to a framework, right? Some of the authors out there who were just spieling shit saying, well, no, the problem isn't us, the problem is the customers, right? They just don't get it, right? Like we were some of the OG people to say, hey, can we call ourselves on our own bullshit first? Can we be intellectually honest? And you know what? I always get a kick out of that because there were some times that we poked some in a respectful way. We poked at some of this shit, and I don't think we ever got any serious blowback for calling the emperor or not having clothes.
We were on a program team kickoff call for Agile 2024 a week or two ago.
Oh my God.
I made a joke
already. Jesus.
I made a joke about if any submission has a framework in the title of it, it's immediately getting rejected, and nobody laughed at me for saying that. And then I kind of waited for people to laugh, and I go, well, I was only half kidding, and they were like, no, we know, that's kind of a bit. Jay, one of my favorite podcasts I've ever done was earlier this year when you and I basically came on and said Taylor wasn't really wrong. Like y'all just misuse his word.
Yeah.
That was literally one of my favorite podcasts I've ever done.
And funnily enough, Merman, that's the one that series we did. It was Troy dissecting John Little's paper, us dissecting Taylorism, and then Sam Hogarth and I, when we dissected the Winston Royce paper. That was some of the loudest conversation we've had, was those 3 episodes. Like again, we're the ones who are like, the guy's not wrong. I mean, anytime I hear someone say, oh, well, Taylorism, it's like, I hate to be that, actually, did you read the book? But I want to say, actually, did you read the book? Because the guy had some, all the shit that we spew has been said before. It's just, we've used different words to say the same things.
I've had people text me excerpts from the book, and they're like, see, he's supporting command and control right there. And I said, do you see the words command or control right there? And they're like, well, it's fine. It's implied. And I said, oh, so we're reading the minds of dead authors and then blaming them for coming up with those ideas. That's what we're doing now. Like, we get joy out of that.
Here's what I want to do. I want to record an episode with Brad because I never get to hang out with Brad. So that's my next goal, Brad. We got to come up with something.
That's a good one.
Okay. All right.
Still need to do that one about this year, because I've been at a fairly full-on engagement, which is why I've had something on every freaking Tuesday for literally 12 months solid, and I've just come off that.
Wow.
But, okay. I was in an org. We managed to put in use the flow framework for reals, to the point that the CEO was sitting in a meeting with us, and we said, look, the reason this value stream is struggling is because they simply are taking on too much work. Wasn't even a blink. It was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And we're talking like overnight, like this is a 1,100 person company, and they just went, yeah, that makes sense.
That's awesome. All right, Brad, I'm going to ping you. We got to get something.
That's a win.
You joined my
that
Heresy
cool.
series.
I'll talk about the flow framework.
One of my other favorite podcasts was, Jay, were you on the comic book podcast with Brad and I?
No, I missed that one.
Comic Agile?
Brad, who did the comic book podcast with you and me?
It was Janae.
It was
Might have been Janae. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
what's his name?
Was Sam
Blue.
on it?
Blue. James. Thrash,
Oh,
right?
Todd.
Yeah. Todd.
Todd.
Yeah,
Todd.
the
Blue Weasel.
Facebook
Yeah.
and the memes. That
Yeah.
was sorry, the Agile and the meme.
Yeah.
That one.
Oh, he's
That was
TT
fun.
now. Yeah, that was a really good show.
Well, and by bringing up these things, it does kind of make me think that there is some ground left that's uncovered.
Oh,
Right,
we
like,
gotta hold stop, Jay. Pause. We gotta go back. We gotta get in the time machine when Rob Ligeti was on the board, and you guys did like Van Halen's take on Agile. It was some metal and Agile.
Oh, we did a music episode. Yeah, people were like, "What is this?" It was me, Ligeti, and Troy.
Yep.
And Ligeti had the world's worst microphone. Like it was patented, the world's worst microphone. Yeah, it was rough.
But I think that again, that's kind of part of the attraction, right? Is we're not just theoretical, right? We actually do this stuff, and we're not afraid to be provocative at work, right? And provocative meaning, how much are you willing to disrupt? Well, here you are. Use me as the battering ram, right? Let's go for it. I'm ready. And I think that's encouraging to a lot of the industry, where it's like you get tired of doing the same thing. And I think we talk about the same thing, but using a different, thinking pattern, right? Do this, try that.
Here's a good question for everybody. Like, do you just prompted something left? Like, do you I would love to know everybody's thoughts of like doing the podcast. Like, how has it benefited? Like, it can't have not helped our careers a little bit, talking about this dumb stuff we do for work all the time. Like, it had to have benefited us some way. Like, for example, me, I was kind of a one answer person on any question. I knew what the answer was, and I kind of gave it when I first met y'all, and I was good at it. It's not that my answers I was giving was wrong, but by talking about these other ideas and listening to tinfoil hat Hershko over there, like talk about his conspiracy theories on everything, like it's kind of forced me to think about multiple paths up the mountain. And I honestly think after all these years of podcasting with you all, I have a more well-rounded view of worldview of my work, and like all of that crap when 2020 was going down, all the social unrest was happening. Like I process the world in a much better way now because of talking on this podcast. Does anybody else have an example of what they feel like doing the pods helped them? Well,
for me, Australia, obviously, and it's a small community. There's 28, 29 million of us total, so not a super huge thing. And a lot of the people that work in the Agile space have a very insular view at times. They tend to focus locality, whereas I found it's really helped me as I've got a much more broad view, exposure to a lot of things, and the podcast has been a big part of that. Although it is funny when occasionally somebody says something and it's, oh, I'm on that podcast, that's cool. Like my boss at one point he's a CST, was delivering a course, and they said, oh, there's the Agile Uprising podcast, and that Aussie bloke's all right, and they just had a laugh. Well, actually we work with him.
That's awesome, man. Congratulations.
That was funny as
I have one person that I work with at my current client, and one day I came into work and she quoted me in a meeting from a podcast, and I was like, "Oh, are you serious?" So anyway,
with attribution, Troy.
So I was like, and she just laughed and she said, "Oh, that was Troy's," but and she was serious about it. Like, so I was like, "Wow, like okay."
Was it something smart?
You can tell me, but basically, it actually was probably top 3, if not my favorite podcast episode I ever did, and it was with Jay a few months ago, and it was the Your Prioritization is Shit podcast, where I had the Karate Kid picture and all that.
Yep.
I got such a kick. I thought I was so brilliant for making that artwork, by the way. So I was laughing so hard making it. But anyway, and basically the premise of that podcast is that it's impossible to know value up front, and to assume you can know it up front is just a fallacy. That's number 1. And number 2 is even if for some random reason you were right about your prioritization, if you work in a high whip environment, you will never even get the things in that order anyway. Okay.
Right.
So so I said something like your prioritization is shit unless you control your whip. And she literally used that in a meeting. Like, what? I didn't unprompted.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So, shout out to you. You know who you are listening. So there you go.
I can't say that there's been a direct tie causally between the podcast and my career, but it definitely forced me to, I guess, to learn and get my shit together. Right. Like I take my career seriously because I felt so overmatched, and I think it definitely helped there. It's helped me meet some really cool people. I'll be honest, like Ben, who's been on the show a couple times, my crazy brother from another mother up in Connecticut. He tracked me down at an in-person PI planning event because he cornered me. He's like, "You're the guy who does the Agile Uprising podcast, right?" And then he pulled me into a corner and picked my brain, and we've been good friends ever since. Yeah, there's been some good connections to come out of it, right? I mean, honestly, Troy, I miss some of not the odd. I mean, Gifford was joking about, your whole nutrition series, but I miss some of that oddball stuff that we used to do. And I know it doesn't really fit under the Agile banner, but that sort of stuff, my first experience with Spiral Dynamic was through Troy. Like I like those left of center episodes that we do. Like if it was up to me, I would pivot away, drop the A word, and just pivot to all that kind of goofy new stuff. Because, and I say goofy in the sense of there's some real knowledge out there that I think we forsake sometimes. That I don't know, that's the stuff I find.
I got an idea, and this is my last thing I'll say, because if anybody wants to join, because it sounds like Gifford might want to, because I have this idea about Agile heresy and fitness heresy. So I'm gonna just make an episode about just a bunch of bullshit in both industries. So how about that? Anybody want to join me? Let me know. So,
yes.
Me.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sounds good.
Left's gonna go do some reps for Jesus.
Okay.
He wears a shirt. There's a story about Phoenix around that too. We'll just stop there. But Jay, I think it has been like just really good to be around you and Troy and just like that different perspective, because like recently I've been digging into like throughput accounting and its intersectionality with value stream mapping, and like how like the prioritization of the two turn into it could be the true powerhouse for people to actually want to run a business significantly better, even from like a product development standpoint and getting things in market. But like those are disparate concepts that most likely, being around your conspiracy theoriness, has kind of brought out. We spent a lot of time doing just product discovery and like UX discovery and things like that, and just taking all the old shit from like lean, like just like basic like Lean Sigma 6. The idea that you can take Lean Sigma 6 and use that as a UX or experience discovery framework really tends to blow people's brains away. But there are instances where like applying those techniques to get to the problem to then understand what you need to solve. Like there's a whole lot of stuff out there in the problem solving space that's what discovery is. And we've made it so.
Go on. I'm sorry, James. Finish.
I mean, we've all made it like this thing because we all read, Sense and Respond and like just lean UX and all these things, and it just became that the way we did things. And it's like, no, there's this whole world over here that, like if you just would go look at it.
To your point, Gifford, I think one of the things that unifies all of us, and even if you go onto the Discord, right, we're really a bunch of rabble rousers, iconoclasts, contrarians, right, heterodox thinkers. Like Troy, again, your nutrition stuff, you're pulling inspiration from places that are not on the McKinsey top 10 management books you should read this year, right? And that's, I think, where we lean in and really show our stuff, is that, again, the stuff that comes from left to center, the inspiration that's not coming straight from a fucking pragmatic programming publishing house book. I mean, not to say that stuff is bad, but I think that's where we contribute. And Merman, I'm going to give you a shout out, right? When you first joined our group, my take on you was you were the guy drinking the Agile Kool-Aid. When you first joined, you were the guy drinking the Agile Kool-Aid. And now you're the guy saying, "Oh, that's just horseshit." Like you're literally Luke Skywalker taking the lightsaber and just throwing it over your shoulder, like Agile. Like, and it's been really cool to see, because to your point, like the changing of the frame and the open mindedness. I was like, man, Merman's in the Kool-Aid, and now you're like sitting there drinking the Kool-Aid, going, you're just spitting it at people, which I think is hysterical. This isn't wine, this isn't blood of anything, this is just water. Awesome. I feel like so there's certain people in our crew that it's like, if I want a podcast about like psychology and sociology, I know I can text Clef, or he'll slide me some research paper and go, what do you think about this? And I can talk for 45 minutes about anything along that lines. And like Lef can tell me things that are happening in organizations, like that I don't have the ability to see. Jay, I said, joked about your your tinfoil hats that you wear, but like nobody consumes the amount of information and retains the amount that you do. But I have never met anybody that can retain information the way that you do. And you used to be like, I'm the person that knows everything and doesn't use any of it at work. And you're actually using some of it now. Yeah. The times that you've quoted the stuff that you've done. I think when I first met Troy, I knew he was a genius. I just didn't know like what unlocked this little Pandora's box to get it open. And like it's like, and then once you get him wound up and get him start going, you're just like, what did we just hear?
That's hilarious. Well, thank you.
So like, and Giff and I are the ones, and Brad, I know that you bring a team level centricity and an understanding that most people have. And then Giff and I are the people that you bring on, and we make stupid jokes, and then you make fun of us, and then we run away making fart sounds. And that's our contribution to the podcast. But we really do have a diverse group of expertise that we couldn't have accidentally started a consultancy with this kind of smarts and stuff that we do. And again, some of you all are like, I don't know what I really got out of the podcast. Like the podcast has driven my desire to learn and keep up with you nuts. So if I would be dumb to say that I'm not at least smarter because I've podcasted with y'all. I think my favorite Troy memory was before a podcast one night where he turned into James Franco from Spring Breakers. You all know that scene where he goes, look at my shit. And he goes around the room and he talks about all the shit in his room. Troy had his phone and he's like, look, and here's I got guitars, and here I got my home. It was right when he bought his house. He's like, I got my home theater system. You remember this laugh? Were you here for me?
Yeah,
and he literally was like slow panning the room. It was the funniest thing. Because Troy, I'm not busting your balls because I love you to death. I'm looking forward to our 4 hours in the car. You're going to kill me. I'm going to be dead somewhere in Pennsylvania because Troy's going to have it and stab me to death in the car when we drive out to Lancaster. But you're right, Merman. You know what? I can't even steal your words. We are a rare combination of completely insane free radicals, and we just happen to collide with each other in positive ways. Right. And it's a shame like Janae couldn't make it tonight, or Colleen, or some of the other folks who've come through us, because we all kind of do run in the same weird quasi orbit. Yeah, well, then there's the original OG, the OG like Andy Bacon and Ligeti and McCalla, and like which one of you all tagged McCalla in a LinkedIn post the other day?
Oh, that was Gifford.
What did he even respond?
I think he did. I'm Mike McCalla.
Oh, I have that outtake. I have that outtake.
Let me sell you an Agile fluency tool.
Did he even respond to your post?
Yeah, he did.
He liked it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Liked it.
We had the infamous tattooed, shaved head, bearded wonder call us in from an Uber, just totally liquored up one night and got on the podcast. He will remain nameless.
Yeah. Speaking of in a Uber, Andy Clef, did it the first time you tried to talk to Dave Snowden, he was in a cab?
Yes. Absolutely. And that didn't make it on the air. Troy's got to drop.
Thank you, everybody.
I'm
Thanks,
thinking
Troy.
back on some of the favorite conversations, and conversation with Snowden are always up at the top because it's fun to try to keep up with his thought process and not be left in the dust.
Yeah.
God, we are an eclectic group.
You want to talk about what's changed since the podcast gone on? He has gone down a path, and he does not care if the bridge is coming with him or not.
I love it. And here's the thing, Dave, you have people who get mad at what Dave Snowden says on the internet don't realize that I would guarantee you he's smiling 99% of the time that he's typing. When we did that last episode and it ended and he had this big Cheshire cat grin, he's having fun. God bless him. He's having fun.
Yeah.
Favorite episodes, I can tell you the first time, shout out to Karen Martin. That was the first interview I did by myself. And I was like, literally, I couldn't believe how nervous I was. I really thought I was going to completely screw it up. I'm like, this is the woman who wrote this book and I'm going to do this myself. And I guess it came out okay. But yeah, I was terrified.
That was a great episode too. I edited that one.
Oh, well, thank you.
Our industry has so much to be grateful to for her in that book. And she does not get near the shine that she does. Like the amount of times we use concepts of value stream mapping, but don't call it that. And I'm like, why don't you just do value stream mapping and just be done? They're like, no, we don't want to do that. I'm like, well, you're basically doing it. And they're like, no, we're not. Like it's genius.
And another thing, and I think we probably all don't give ourselves enough credit, but it's been amazing to watch Jay grow up in a way that he never knew was possible. Right. Same with Troy. When Gifford and I met Troy, he was like a scrum master, not like he was a scrum master for like a small agile team in a small software company. Right. Jay, you were so hard on yourself. Yeah. I mean, and it's been amazing. And now, but you've always been this person. So literally having this community support you in a way to get you to strive, like unbelievable. You're in my opinion, the smartest person I know. So hands down, no cap. Right. So I love the fact that you are just this sponge of knowledge, and the way that you synthesize this information and then speak to it is a gift, my friend. And it has been such a pleasure to experience this with you for 7+ years. It's been amazing, right? And you've never lost sight of who you are.
He's also recorded like 4 times the amount of podcasts the rest of us. It's just amazing. Combined.
I'm telling you, you definitely just an amazing coach, an amazing person, mentor, teacher, speaker, what you name it. It's been an honor, my friend. Definitely.
Thank you.
So
I appreciate that.
Kudos.
If we put a poll out on our Discord and said, if you could only keep one of us on the board, which one would you keep? I guarantee you Jay would win in a landslide.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And people actually like me on the Discord. Some of them.
But Lef, I'm going to give you, Andy Clef, I'm going to give everybody on this call credit for making me into the lunatic that I am, because I joined this group and I felt like I was falling behind it. To be honest with you, until I fell in with you guys, I was shagging my career. I was shagging it. I was just looking for a job, looking for some money, whatever. I wasn't really taking it personal, like trying to grow. And now it's like, now I can't turn the goddamn thing off. I got this giant pile of unread books and it just keeps growing. And every time I look, there's 3 more there and shit. But no, it's intellectual arms race, I guess. I fell in with the right group of people who pushed me in the right way.
I think one of the best things
that was
ever.
my introduction to the whole place. Like Discord, if you remember, I got invited after participating in Discord, and all I was trying to do was figure out how to do this stupid thing. I was a team leader that was taking on a Scrum Master role. That was the start of my journey.
Great.
Andy, I've not heard from you very much. I would really like to know some of your, like, a couple of highlights from you. Like you have mentored me in a way that is incredible. And I I still have no idea how old you are, but you keep telling me you're going to get close to retirement. And I'm like, aren't you 35 or something? But
I've started going backwards. Every podcast has been different for me. Some the solo ones, the read a book, talk to the author, the J syndrome of like, holy shit, we're talking to who, and pick any of the authors that have answered our blind email. Would you like to be on a show? Sure. Like, oh shit. Right. Dave Allen, right? Getting things done.
Oh, Dave Allen. That was a fun one. Yeah. 100%.
And then also all the conversations with each and every one of you where we have a plan, right? Some of our listeners may know and some may not know. We sometimes have a plan for a show, but very few of those plans survive the initial 5 minutes of conversation. Like, throw the Google Doc away and just save it for the last bit. Thank you for listening to yet another. Don't forget the closing bullets.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So all of that's been fun.
But there's something to that, Andy, is I feel that the passion of what we talk about allows us to go off script because it stays authentic, right? And you don't have to be this anemic narrator of questions. I think that's part of the charm. Anyway,
yeah,
I'm all in the feels tonight.
There's plenty of podcasts out there that stay on script and we don't make it past the first 5 minutes.
You're right, Andy. So you want to talk about what I've gotten out of the podcast? It's finding that breadcrumb, that thread that someone leaves, and just chucking my next 6 talking points and saying, Andy, can we talk more about that? And that is something that I know I have, and I think you all would probably the same way. You can only develop that by practicing, by learning to hear, not just hear, but listen to what people are saying. When they throw that bone out there, you got to go after it because there are plenty of, they keep trying to steer the conversation back to the talking points. And you can't, you just got to let it go.
My perfect example of that, Jay, is that you heard me say something on a podcast we were doing about something. And then you said, and then Merman After Dark was born just because you decided to follow up and ask me like, wait, you have things you regret? And I was like, oh my gosh, I have a ton of things I regret. And he's like, Merman After Dark.
It was born. We play some good jazz. A colleague and I were talking about jazz hands, right? How practiced a jazz musician is, right? So that, through repetition, they can go off script. And I love how we're able to riff off of each other. And it's a tribute to the depth of knowledge that we've achieved in our careers.
To that point, Andy, I have lost count of the amount of panel interviews we've done, one-on-one interviews, where at the end, the guest says, you know what, this was really fun. This is probably the best podcast I've ever done. And I think it comes through in, I think our listeners not even hearing that particular line. I think it comes through because it really is, we're trying to have a conversation. It's just the equivalent of a bunch of colleagues sitting around a water cooler having, having a gas up or whatever, just chatting.
Yeah. Jason Little went years without coming on the podcast and was just like, man, I love being on. He's like, this one's always so comfortable for me to be on.
Yeah, that whole pickup, like where you left off, like nothing has changed. Yeah,
sure.
Yeah. So
Sorry, I just have to say, Andy mentioned Agile Jazz Hands. It's funny that prompted a positive thing, and yet the mission of this podcast has become, we want to sever all jazz hands from the Agile community. Death to Agile Jazz Hands.
I like jazz hands.
So with all the conversation,
maybe it's death to Agile Sparkle Fingers.
Yes, Spirit Fingers.
But I like glitter and jazz hands.
So where is the world going to take us next? Right. So we're recording this in November. The world has changed, right? We're looking at an unclear financial profile for the entire world, right? Things are kind of goofy. We're hearing basically we're in a quasi phantom recession. Companies are cutting back spending. So I guess the question to all of y'all is, where do we go in the next year to give people the support that we all get from the organization? How do we find a way to do that? Right, the support from the Discord, from the podcast. How do we? Where is this show taking us? And I'm thinking out loud. Because I really don't know.
I think step one is one thing that we've been from the very beginning, which is we've been a very open community. I feel like we've been like, we don't do really any trashing of things. We don't spend a lot of we may be a little sarcastic on Discord from time to time, but we're not actively like putting things down. And honestly, I think if anything that our community needs right now, again, I'm stealing from the kickoff call we had, this last week. Like, the community kind of needs to start coming together a little bit, or we're just going to be eradicated like a bunch of rodents and stuff. Like, I think that's mission number one of the podcast, is still be a welcoming place for ideas, for especially ones that we disagree with, and people that want to come and talk about how they don't like that we said this, or they disagree that we said that. Hey, like that idea is welcome here. Like, that's what I think that has to continue. That should never change.
I want to cut the bullshit. I want to drop the agile. I want to focus on things that matter and not all this bullshit, all this overhead, all this framework, all this other stuff that just dilutes the waters, right? Let's just focus on what's important. And if that's financially feeding the street, then say it, right? Like, let's get honest about a lot of the things that we experience, and let's disrupt, right? Let's really do it. That's kind of where I would love. I'm in a point in my career where I want to be so aggressive, and I want to rock the boat and see who can hold on. Because to me, the people that can hold on they're there. They get it. So I know I speak for a select few that would probably agree that the level of frustration and just the misguided kind of achievement of becoming agile should never be the goal, right? That should not be the end state. So I'm tired of unraveling that tangled ball of yarn and bubblegum.
I might as well have career aspirations to be a unicorn, because that's just as good.
So,
hey, you asked the question. Now, you didn't put it.
I don't
put any guardrails around it. See what happens.
I don't disagree.
If I could, like, there's a lot of people, me included, that have a decade at least, if not more, of your job title and your job descriptions have Agile littered all over it. There's a lot of people, when I was out of work early, this year, I spent a lot of this year unemployed, where I had recruiter after recruiter say, you've got a really broad resume, but nothing like super deep. And I go, well, it's deep in Agile stuff. And they're like, yeah, and that's not what I'm hiring for. I think that we could be a resource for people that would like to pivot. Like, our sideways hat wearing friend, Mr. Leff here, pivoted away from Agile with a job role earlier this year. And it took him some work, it took him some effort and a little bit of luck, but I would love to do a couple of podcasts on taking skills that are really, really, really transferable. Ask any person in leadership, like the skills that we bring as Agile leaders, ultimately very transferable to a lot of other roles and types of things, but nobody knows how to do that, including myself.
That's super valid. I've been with the great Scrum Master ejection that is happening because people went and hired a Silicon Product Valley or a Silicon Product Group, or been doing projects or listening to Escape the Build Trap, and just like the whole industry of like that, like helping to start companies figuring out that like that product operations role that you're talking about, that's one like process code versus like product delivery. You've got a bunch of people that understand product delivery that most likely have those skills to actually form some of those kind of like new and modern kind of producty roles. Like, we've been exploring a lot of that. And it is like, if I'm an agile person, like I will tell you that my favorite time in my life is when my title was continuous improvement specialist on the HR roles, as opposed to like the global director of or was it the global director of process and tools? Like it didn't say agile anywhere. It was just the global director of process and tools. And all I was focused on was continuously improving the organization and solving problems. I'd love to get to that. I will say, you know, we've been talking here 7 years ago, like we sat down, I think it was Lockhart and Cusack, and we talked about taking over Agile Philly. That was like our bright, shining beacon of standing. The reason we formed this stuff up, and we had a goal of like disrupting LinkedIn, and you know, we didn't achieve that. But I will tell you that I find the Discord community that we have far better than LinkedIn. You got
Yeah, it's a passionate
Yeah.
group. And it's interesting. Somebody said earlier, I think it was you, Lef, you're involved in other communities, and none is so good natured, and maybe that's the wrong word. The opposite of nasty, right? There is no nastiness in anybody. There's a lot of emotion and passion and dialogue, but it's a very humane place.
We want to see people succeed.
We want to
Yeah.
see,
Yeah.
it's very giving. I can't predict what next year brings. I can barely figure out next week. But, what doesn't change for me is the need to be connected with other humans and to play a little jazz, right? And
Yeah. To your point, Andy, crabs in a bucket, right? Crabs in a bucket benefits nobody, and we are not that type of community. If anything, we're below people trying to push them out of the bucket, right? Like, and there are quite a few people. I'm not going to name names, but there are quite a few people who we have seen their careers grow just by the interaction we have in Discord, and see them step into their confidence, and that's awesome, right? Like,
I'm thinking of exactly who you're thinking of, Jay. And
there's a couple examples. I mean, there's even people who joined, were very, very active, have gone on to do bigger things, and then have kind of drifted away because they've been busy. Great, good for them, right? Always have a soft spot.
Yeah,
but I do think Lef is onto something though. Maybe the big pivot is coming. You know, we just go home for Christmas, come back, we've completely rebranded.
we're gonna start the product management uprising.
No.
it could just be called The Uprising, and we finally release one of those logos that we designed 17 years ago.
Well, I was
You gotta-
getting
you
ready
gotta
to
bring
say
it
is-
up.
I was gonna say
gotta
it's
bring
time
it
for
up.
a logo redesign.
Oh, I love the
Listen,
one that.
hey, do you
Lef
want
did
to talk
with the
about
Philly
maturity?
pretzel.
Like, I don't even care anymore. Like, I just
no
doesn't
logo.
bother me.
No logo. There we go.
There
no
you go.
logos, no backlogs, no defects. We'll start no estimates. We'll start the no.
The no logo.
The no uprising. The no
The
rising.
no uprising.
The no
Yeah.
rising. There we go. Here we go.
Oh God.
Yeah, I think you're right, Merman. I think we should probably start putting this one to bed. But all things considered, it's been a really wild ride. Like, it really has been a wild ride, and I am curious to see what the future brings. Right? I think we've hit a nice pace. I think from where I sit, like, it feels like it's less haphazard. It's more just go do.
Well, I am very proud of this group and very honored to have been a part of all of it. So
Yep.
You all have influenced my career greatly, and I appreciate all of you.
Y'all are
a lot.
family to me. Y'all are
Yeah.
family to
So
me.
this has been lightning in a bottle, which I've experienced very few times in my career, and very few times personally. So you all definitely are, just Merman said, family. So
Awesome.
thank you.
Thanks everybody for listening too.
Yeah, seriously.
When we get to 1 million downloads, that'll be kind of cool.
Pop the champagne. Well, thank you, listeners. See the show notes. If you're not already part of the Discord community, stop by, check it out. And we'll see you at the next episode. This one's a wrap.
Ta-da.